Hello, hi, welcome back to the Tetracast. We are on episode 425, being recorded on January 17, 2026. I am your substitute host, Josh Torres. Brian Vitali is currently out this weekend doing some other real life stuff, which is all good. Joining me this week, we have Adam Vitali,
Hello?
we have Mikhail Madnani,
Hello.
and we have James Galizio.
Hey, folks.
Kind of a low key week in the mid January. We're kind of moving along until like the bigger releases near the end of this month, and of course February. There is some interesting things that at least are technically not out this week, but the embargo of them lifted. So we'll get into that, especially with Dynasty Warriors Origins. Both its story DLC expansion and its Switch 2 release, which, as of like I said, as of the time of this recording, will be out next week. But the embargo of them lifted just a few days ago. We also have some new reviews from Mikhail concerning several titles that got Nintendo Switch 2 releases. And in the news, we have some updates for games we've talked frequently about, and we'll get into it. So, like I said, the big topic this week, of course, Trails Beyond the Horizons English release also came out this week as well. We also want to make note of that. But for what we're going to talk about, it's mainly how it runs on the other platforms. Because let's face it, if you're interested in this title, you're probably either already playing it or you're like a game or two or several games behind, and you want to get to this game. But I don't think it would do a big service for you if you don't want to know about it. If you wanted to know about it, you're probably already playing it. It's kind of in a weird spot for this game.
And we've talked about the Japanese release, and it's also just a hard game to talk about.
Yeah,
like you kind of have to talk around it. So, this is, I think, so Scott put up his review. We talked about this, and he basically says, he even kind of said, kind of bluntly, like, this game is in the middle of an arc or end of an arc. This isn't a game you start with. This is a game that it almost doesn't matter what he says, because if you're on this orbital train, as he put it, you are going to play this game and figure out what happens, and for yourself, see it for yourself, whether or not you think it's good or bad. You want to see it. So he touched on a few things broadly that he liked, but
it's very reminiscent of like some of the stuff I said in my Cold Steel 4 review like 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's all like, but obviously, I think the thing that is helpful for everyone, and we're going to get into it when we reach that, is, hey, how does it run on different platforms? Of course, Durante, absolute fucking masterclass. Both him and his team at PH3 doing the ports for these releases on Nisa's end, and always getting to the nitty gritty details about what they included. Like obviously worth mentioning in here as well when we get there. But just a fantastic individual overall. I can never stop saying nice things about Durante because it's so easy.
Kind of a random comment. Durante put out his top 10 games of last year, and I really do like his kind of like varied tastes in games, where he'll include
Absolutely.
games like 100 Line. He was a fan of that, as well as like Tainted Grail, which is a game that Brian talked about. And I just kind of appreciate his willingness to try out like different things, different games, different styles, different genres from different places. I appreciate those sorts of.
He also had like titles like Poppycom and Lego
Oh, yeah.
Voyagers, which I both of those titles I really like. Both are mandatory co-op games, but I'm glad to see that they got representation on his list and got a shout out, because I think both of those games definitely are worth playing through. Delightful experiences. So it's cool to see. It's like, yes, Durante played Poppycom. That's fucking awesome. I love that. Yeah. So definitely. Yeah, before we get into that, Dynasty Warriors Origins. This released last year for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Year later, Koei Tecmo and developer Omega Force continue to support it, both with it coming to Switch 2 and it coming and also having this big, like, relatively larger DLC story expansion with Visions of Four Heroes. Mikhail, what do you think we should get into first? The Switch 2 release or the DLC? I'll leave it up to you.
No, let's do the DLC first because despite having access to it, I have a lot of questions to ask you about it. So that'll be a fun way to start.
Sure, yeah. So I reviewed the Visions of Four Heroes DLC, and it's a bit of a weird one because it's not like it's continuing the storyline of Dynasty Warriors Origins. Because I think one of the things that kind of caught a lot of Dynasty Warriors series fans off guard is Origins doesn't actually contain the whole Romance of the Three Kingdoms storyline like much of the other mainline series titles do. Where usually the finale stage set point of those games like the face off at Wujang Plains, the grand almost like the final battle between Zhuge Liang and Sima Yi from Shu and Wei respectively before it got to the Jin era, and then some of the later Dynasty Warriors mainline series go into that era that came after the Wei Wu and Shu battling between those factions. It would later touch on like, hey, this new Jin faction took over Wei, and they get into like kind of the aftermath of that whole era, Romance of the Three Kingdoms era that people associate with. So in Dynasty Warriors Origins, they don't even get to that spot. They go to the Battle of Chibi, which is like also a really big turning point in that whole storyline. But it's just like, oh wow, that's where the game ends because it's so narratively rich already. You get so many hours. Like they couldn't fit this whole storyline because there's so many things to come after that battle. So in Visions of Four Heroes, it doesn't add on to that story. It has a fun twist where it's like 4 what if mini campaign DLC arcs for Zheng Zhao, who led the Yellow Turbans, Dong Zhuo, Yuan Shao, and Lu Bu. And I guess the easiest way to think about these 4 individuals when you look at stories about Romance of the Three Kingdoms is these individuals were, I guess, characterized as almost like as villains when it comes to like historical records that like tell about the Three Kingdoms era and the way that those stories are portrayed. These 4 individuals were usually kind of like, hey, these were like kind of the major antagonistic force at the time. And so the Visions of Four Heroes DLC, it has you side with these 4 individuals in their own separate campaign. Like they're like selectable on a menu, and first you have to do Zhang Jiao's campaign first before you can select between the other 3. And they take about maybe 1.5 to 2 hours each, maybe a little bit more depending on the individual. Like overall, it took about 10 to 11 hours to finish this whole DLC. But it is basically, hey, if these characters, if you sided with them and they didn't lean into their like worst tendencies that brought about their downfall, what would their stories look like if they were able to reach that potential of being more heroic, becoming a hero, not necessarily like being a great guy or anything still, but was more successful in their pursuits and didn't like fall for the stupid shit that they did that really fucked them over in the end. And it's a really like, if you're into the Three Kingdoms like storyline and that tale, and like you kind of have a bit of a understanding about like what these characters went through, you'll get more of a kick out of it if you understand that context. Like for example, if you cited Yuan Shao and he was more successful in his pursuits, he didn't fall for the flood at Guandu Castle. He was able to retain some of the more strategic talent in his army because he was able to prove himself. Like what would have that looked like? It was a more of a threat to his opponents because he was able to be charismatic and be able to lead his army in a way that didn't come off as overly arrogant, you know, stuff like that. And that's like really interesting to see because when you look at the stories in these 4 arcs, they're almost like, as I said in my review, almost like character studies about these characters of like, it's like character studies that's borderline fan fiction of like, hey, if these people were more successful, where would have that gone?
I was actually just about to say, so this is like Three Kingdoms fan fiction.
In a way, Mikhail, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so like you brought up the whole menu where you select the stories and stuff, and I read your review before it went up. Great review. I actually considered playing the DLC, but no time right now. So I wanted to ask you, do you think this is actually like multiple DLC packs that they combined into a single one to release together? Because based on how you've described it, it kind of feels like that.
It is sold like as a one package. It's not they're not like selling it as like four individual things. I don't think
Yeah.
they're gonna. I think it makes sense to like bundle this all together so you kind of get. I think I don't know if you get your money's worth in terms of like I don't know exactly what the price is. I think it's like $30.
It's 35. It's 35.
Yeah, $35, and it's about 10 to 11 hours on average. Your mileage may vary on like how much you want to play more Dynasty Warriors Origins because I think this is a DLC that like if you enjoyed the moment-to-moment gameplay of DW Origins and you want more, I think that price might be worth it for you. I think 35 is still a little too high, but but the gameplay of Dynasty Warriors Origins has always been entertaining to me. I really like the way that they represented like just massive and oceans of waves of bodies, like going into battle, and it feels great to be on the battlefield, mowing down lots and lots and lots of like enemy soldiers, and you have like two new weapon types with the bow and rope dart in this, so you do have new ways to play the game because there's two new weapon types. But $35 is a pretty, it's not nothing. If this is
Yes, half
$20,
price of the base game.
yeah, if this is $20, it'd be, I could easily recommend $35. It's like your mileage may vary. Some people will be like that. I easily bought in. The other people are like that's way too high. Maybe I'll wait on a sale. Like in that respect, I can't be the judge of that. The value of this will vary wildly between people. So it's hard for me to say is it worth it? Isn't that like it's up to you if you think it's worth it. If you enjoyed, if you want to play more Dynasty Warriors Origins and you've already fully completed it and you want to play more, obviously, it's going to be more worth it to you over someone who might be, getting the game and this at, full price. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if you should jump in right away if you already have the base game that you want to start to get through.
Did they add any new music, or was it or new arrangements? Because the original game had quite a few arrangements of classic tracks, right? Like they
I
had
don't know if
those
they added
DW
new.
Origins mix.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't add new music to this. If not, it's been a while since like I've listened to all the tracks,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure they didn't add new music from what I could tell. They also didn't add any brand new entire maps. There's a lot of remixed maps, just kind of the nature of it because you're going through a lot of familiar battles and territory with these individuals and like the battles that they fought. Instead, like you're now on their side, but some of the maps might have different time of day, different weather conditions, obviously different arrangements on the battlefield where people are going to be it's all remixed, and it's not like it's the exact same maps, but it is kind of a shame like you don't see any brand new maps overall. It's a lot of familiar ground that you're treading through. The weird thing is, like as I mentioned, the two new weapon types in the base game. The base game in itself is already a pretty lengthy game. You're getting like easily 40 to 50 hours, maybe even more, depending on like how many routes you do in it, because you have the Weiwu and Shu campaign divides that you choose between. And so when you are acquiring new weapon types in that game, it's pretty. Eventually you'll get them all because of the length of that game. Like it's gonna be hard to like miss any like weapon types because you get new weapons from drops from enemy officers you defeated, and you get like better stuff on like later stages for difficulties, etc. But the weird thing with this, since this DLC story is way shorter in length, and there's only two new weapon types, it kind of, for me, it got really weird because the bow is the first one that you'll usually always get. It's like Kite and I were talking about it because he reviewed it for Silicon Era, and I guess the bow is a guaranteed drop within the first two stages of the DLC story for Zhang Jiao, which you'll always do first because that's mandatory. So the bow you'll always get pretty early, and then the second weapon type, the rope dart, it feels like a truly random drop because I asked Kite out of nowhere. I was like, Kite, did you get the rope dart yet? And when did you get it? Because I was already like, when I asked this question, I think I was like in the over halfway through Yuan Shao's DLC route. That was the third route I did. The third campaign I did. I did Zhengjiao, because everyone has to do that first. Then I did Dongzhuo and then Yuan Shao. And then uh Kite was like, I think I got it either on like Dongzhuo or Yuan Shao's route. And I'm like, okay, it didn't drop for me yet. Weird. And then I completed Yuan Shao's route. I went to and then I started Lu Bu's and still nothing about this rope dart. I'm like, is my game bugged? Did I miss the rope dart out somewhere? Like, what happened? And then I finally got the rope dart to drop randomly on the final stage of Lu Bu's route. Just and it was like the final stage of that DLC that I was doing, and I was just kind of laughing at myself. I'm like, okay, this thing is like a truly random drop then, because it seems like Kite got it pretty early, and then my luck is like I got it the very last thing to do in the DLC. Basically, I'm like, well, that's cool. So I wonder if they're gonna like have some. I wonder if more people are gonna experience this, and if more people do, I wonder if they're gonna add like sanity checks of like maybe we should like try to get the rope dart as a guaranteed drop earlier somewhere in here, so they don't have like cases like mine where like it just drops at like the final thing you're doing in that. And I wonder if like there'll be some cases where people don't get it to drop at all, like this rope dart weapon type. I wonder if they'll go through it normally and just never drops for them. I wonder if that'll happen.
Is this like typical Dynasty Warriors design where a weapon type is a drop?
Yeah, I mean, so in Origins, it's different because like since you have like a main character that can use multiple weapon types, since like they're kind of the sole playable main character, aside from like very typical one-off companion characters that you can temporarily control in battle, but they're not like permanently playable. In older Dynasty Warriors games, there's a lot of different characters you can use, and they all have their own weapons that they can use. So, like, let's say Dynasty Warriors 3 and Dynasty Warriors 4, when I choose Shahodun, and he uses scimitars, um, like the only weapons that will drop for him when I'm playing it is only his weapon. So let's say I'm going through the stage and I defeat an enemy officers, it'll only drop a weapon that's for him because I'm playing him. It won't drop another weapon that's for Cao Cao or Dian Wei or Sun Se or whatever. It won't. It was only drop Shahodun's weapon because I'm playing him. And then to unlock his other weapons, it's either through later stages or higher difficulties. And then like for his final weapons, usually have to be on the hardest difficulty and to have like strict like requirements of like in order to get this thing to spawn or drop, you have to do this and this and this at this specific stage. So it's usually done like that. In Origins, it's totally different because you only have like this one protagonist that can use multiple weapon types. So the way that you acquire them is different than like how you used to in like the other mainline Dynasty Warriors games. So I don't know if they're gonna keep this design moving forward if they make another Origins game, but at the moment it's like kind of like new territory, and it's very weird that it's done like this.
I'm gonna pull a Brian here. You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah. What?
This reminds me of Valkyria Chronicles 2, where
okay, yeah.
that has the class mark drops, where it's like you want to use certain classes in that game, you don't unlock them until they are dropped. So I remember that being a weird design where like if you unlock a class, you have to fight them in a random battle or whatever and hope they just drop.
Yeah,
So.
this is very strange for this one. Like I just if I didn't know there were already two weapon types, I just would have thought it was only the bow. I didn't know at all that there was gonna be a rope dart. To be honest.
Anyways, how is the rope dart?
It's fun. It's good. I mean, I would have enjoyed it more if I got to like play through it more to progress through the DLC. But it's a fun weapon. It's a nice like AOE crowd control weapon that you swing around. Has some fun animations when you're kicking it around. So it's nice. I only played a few stages with it. I wish I played more stages with it, but so it goes. There's also another new mechanic that they added in this DLC, where in the base game you traverse through between different towns and battles through this overworld map. So you kind of have like your dude kind of running all across China and that's like the world map of it. It's like you're just running around it. Don't worry about the logistics. That's just that's how it's done. So since each campaign in this DLC is sectioned off from one another and sectioned off from the base game, a lot of the main features of that world map is disabled for this. So you're not visiting different towns or like exploring the world like the way you did in the base game. It's usually to go from point A, run over a few steps into point B, and then that's how you start like the next battle for some of them. But when you there are times when you're going through each campaign where it utilizes the world map again, and it introduces this new strategic battle mechanic where since you're now part of an army, you're trying to and you're fighting another army. It kind of goes into this almost tabletop RPG mode where you control the next like moves between your army and yourself on the world map, and you're taking turns with the enemy. So when it starts, you have your cluster of soldiers and you moving around, and you see other clusters of allied soldiers moving to enemy formations on this world map, and they all have HP bars above them, and you take turns on what you're doing. So let's say I move my dude to an enemy cluster to assist one of my allied soldiers. So when I do that and complete that enemy skirmish, uh, that means I've done my turn. I've finished that skirmish. I took off like this enemy cluster because I completed this skirmish battle with them. It's like a very small scaled skirmish battle. It's not as grand or time consuming as normal battles. These take maybe like 3 to 5 minutes at most because they have very simplistic objectives.
Now, I'm not super well versed in Dynasty
Yeah.
Warriors, but I read this part of your review, and I played Fate Samurai Remnant, which had that like Grail War tactical, not really tactical, but like kind of a similar sort of map where you kind of have icons moving around the map, running into like mini skirmishes. Is it anything at all like that?
It's a little bit like that. Yeah, it's way more simplified than the real war mechanic in
Okay.
Fate Samurai Remnant, but it is somewhat similar to that because there's less nodes. It's not like it's super interconnected like Real Wars were. Like it was like all very complex. This one is like maybe there's like let's say 5 enemy clusters on the world map, like just like nodes, and then it's like you and maybe 2 other ally clusters. Ally cluster 1 goes to enemy formation 1. Ally cluster 2 goes in the opposite direction to enemy formation 2. You choose between which ally cluster you want to help because the one that you help um won't take damage because you'll finish the skirmish and help them defeat the enemy. While the other ally cluster will take some damage because it'll be the enemy's turn, so they're just duking it out, and they'll do some damage to each other. So after that, you go over and help the other ally cluster, and then usually the ally cluster that you helped out before will join you and help you um, defeat the enemy of the other one. So you're basically kind of creating this avalanche effect because what you're trying to do in this whole strategic battle, you'll have a numerical value at the left corner that dictates the enemy's total strength and then your army's total strength, and you're trying to reduce that enemy strength numerical value down as much as possible before the turn limit is up, and there's going to be like a finale of the decisive battle to the strategic battle whole thing event. Because once that turn limit turns 0, it'll automatically initiate that final decisive battle for that strategic battle. And along the way, you'll gain you'll be able to use like skills on that overworld map from energy clusters or energy meters that you gain from uh, finishing completing skirmishes on the enemy. So let's say I take out one enemy cluster, they award me 2 energy. So I have there'll be like new tactical skills that you can use on that map that only works in this DLC because this whole mechanic wasn't in the base game. So I can use that energy that I got to say, hey, I want to initiate this charge move on this other enemy cluster, and it'll take down some of their health before I even initiate that battle. Or you can use that energy for other unlockable skills, like I want to restore this allied formation's health, or another skill is like I want to use this volley of arrows to paralyze this enemy cluster for one turn. So when it's the enemy's turn, this enemy formation cannot attack and deal damage to my nearby allies that they're facing off. It sounds complicated on paper. I promise you, it's very simplistic. It's just like explaining it. Sometimes feels like a lot of like words for very simple concepts once you see them. So it's a nice thing to shake it up and kind of mix up new elements in it. But it's one of those things that it feels like a prototype for something that they want to do eventually. If they make like, I imagine they'll make an Origins sequel, and I think the strategic battle mechanic will be in that hypothetical sequel, but hopefully in a much more fleshed out, evolved manner. Because I think what they have here is like building blocks and more of a prototype of like what they intend to do down the road. And I think it has potential to like be super involved and interesting because it brings like a strategy game element into that whole framework and design of the games. Mikhail, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you mentioned that the final bosses of each of the stories in the DLC are some of the best in Dynasty Warriors Origins so far, right?
Yeah.
So
For
was it
sure.
because they did stuff like, you remember in the base game at the end of chapter 1 you had that lightning and the big rocks and all being thrown at you. I'm not going to say anything else to prevent spoilers because
Yeah.
there are probably people who haven't played it yet, but stuff like that, which was like this huge thing. Or it was also like, when you face Lubu, I believe that was in the demo of Origins also, like that was like just some insanely challenging fight which was super memorable with this theme remix and stuff like that. So, what made the boss battle stand out to you so much?
There are elements of that, and there's also kind of funny that you mentioned like the environment thing. In that strategic battle thing, there are things called secret tactics that you obtain, and they're like bodyguard abilities. And some of these like secret tactics do manipulate the environment. Like, hey, summon down lightning every so often with this secret tactic. So you do get like fun stuff like that along the way. But the thing that makes some of these final battles memorable is the overwhelming odds that you have to sort of face, because you're taking on so many named characters that that became significant individuals in the Weiwu and Shu era. Of course, a lot of them have like allied fronts on this front when they're confronting like these individuals that were like kind of the antagonists in history. So you go through a lot of like enemy officers, like kind of like facing elite enemy formations in that aspect, but also because this isn't a big spoiler, but Lubu is that character where he'll jump into the fray of battle regardless of the odds, because he's just like a fucking badass warrior that like can overcome the odds with sheer might and ability. So when you're allied with Lubu and your failure condition is Lubu gets defeated in battle, and this is a dude that likes jumping into the fray with or without allies, you can imagine that his final battle might be like, hey, you're at this other side of the map, and Lubu's at the other side of the map. He's just charging through the front, no matter how many enemies are in his way, and he'll be surrounded on all sides, and he doesn't give a fuck. So he's just like in the heart of the enemy formation while you're on the other side of the map, being like, hey, Lubu, don't die or else I fail the mission. So it's like, okay, between me and Lubu, there are multiple things I have to do to breach the castle gate to even get to this guy to, make sure he doesn't die. What do I do to get there? And how fast can I get there before he falls in battle? Stuff like that. So there's a lot of like an element of crisis management in these final battles that you have to consider because of the characteristic of how these individuals um play and how these individuals behave in battle, and whether they're being charged or being the one out there in charge. It will dynamically shift how you are forced to play that game, because if you're the type of player that likes to make sure that everything is neat and tidy before you charge the enemy, sometimes the ones that you're allied with disagree and are just like heading in there with reckless abandon, and you're like, okay, what do I do then? Stuff like that. And it's like, that's, to me, that's super memorable, because it's like, okay, now I'll forever remember like what I had to do to like get to this fucking dude before he fell in battle, and it was not an easy mission. So stuff like that. It's a lot of fun though. It's great. Let's see what else. I guess the other thing I'll mention is when Dynasty Warriors Origins came out, and I mentioned this behind the scenes, and as more people played the game, they noticed it too. But it's like the interactions you have with some of these characters. It's such a much more narratively focused game. There's a lot more story cutscenes of you talking to the individuals one to one. Since you have a nameless protagonist, or not nameless, a silent protagonist, and you talk to them one on one, and they recognize you for all the feats that you're doing. They kind of get sometimes intimate with the dialogue and the way that their line delivery is to Zillawan, your silent protagonist. It's like saying like, oh, I can't, like almost like it's almost in the same vein as like, if you weren't there, I would have been defeated, or I can't imagine life without you. You're like, man, this is getting really intimate, huh? Guan Yu and I are like that now, huh? And I remember, like, I believe producer Show even commented on this, because there are a lot of like people commenting on like, man, this is really intimate. Like some people are like really digging it too, especially a lot of like the female fan base of the Warriors games were like, this is awesome. And like, I agree with them. It's like, it was awesome. And I guess producer shows like, I don't know if I recognized that like it came off like that, and people were, I guess, worried that like, oh no, they'll tone it down, like, and like future releases if he's like saying it like this. But at least for this DLC, I'm proud to announce that they kept up that same level of intimacy for some of these characters when you're talking with them one on one. When you're like, all right, awesome, like Zhang Jia, for example. It's like, him and you are kind of like, you're kind of getting really really super buddy with this, which is, it's a fun. These are fun ways to kind of mix up the formula, because you never really had that sort of dynamic for a lot of the mainline Dynasty Warriors games, which they were, played straight, sometimes comedically in terms of like line delivery and like earlier English dubs, but overall it's just like, because it's so like intimate with the dialogue, it kind of found almost a new audience in that respect alone, which is pretty fun to see when that game came out last year. So at least for this DLC, they still kept up that same level of like intimacy when it was appropriate. It's not like all over the place, like in the base game. It wasn't like that at all, but it's still there. But just addressing some people's worries, like, oh, did they tone it down? It's like, no, not really. Not that I think so. But that's, it's a very competent story DLC. It's cool to see that it got the support. I'm interested in what they'll do with Origins next. I imagine they're going to work on a follow-up game, but who knows when that'll come out. And I guess the next thing for the Dynasty Warriors series is that Dynasty Warriors 3 Remastered release in March that they announced at some Sony State of Play a few months ago. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to that, because Dynasty Warriors 3 is one of my favorite games ever. So, I'm very curious to see how they'll handle that. And
hopefully it doesn't end up. Before that, I was just
Yeah.
thinking, like I said this in the staff chat, that like based on the demo for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, and based on what they've been saying for Yakuza Kiwami 3, which we'll talk about in a bit, like it's like you're just two games which you really really liked are disappointing you, and I don't think you'd be able to handle anything bad for Dynasty Warriors 3.
Yeah, usually I'm unshakable in that regard. I'll have complaints, but I'm unshakable. But when it comes to Dynasty Warriors 3, I might cry if they fuck it up. I might just break down and cry. But we'll see, I guess. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers and toes that it's all my hopes and dreams realized, that it's the best thing ever.
It's okay, I'll test the Switch 1 port for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of Switch 1 port, so Dynasty Warriors Origins finally came to Switch 2. Oh, finally came. No, it's going to be out in a few days as of this recording, alongside the DLC, which is also going to be available for sale. It's a bit surprising that they, like, quote unquote, pulled an Atlas over there. You have like a year late port and none of the DLCs included. It's essentially nearly full price. In fact, they did basically the same thing Atlas did. Like Persona 3 Reload was 70 on everything it released on, and then it came to Switch 2 like a year and a half or whatever later at 60, not 70, and none of the DLC was included. You had to still buy for 30 or 35 through the expansion pass or whatever. So with Switch 2, it's the same thing. It's $60 for the base game. There's a deluxe edition which has that art book soundtrack stuff and like some in-game nonsense which you don't need. But yeah, and you have to buy the DLC. And the Switch 2 port, I was a bit concerned because last year when you and I were playing it for review, I was playing it for another publication, and at that time I played it on Steam Deck, and it was a bit rough to get it to like a stable frame rate over there because this is a very well optimized game, but it's also pushing visuals quite a bit because of its new lighting compared to all the prior games, and because this actually delivered on the 1 versus 1,000 scale, like we've praised and brought up multiple times. So I had to like cut down the visuals quite a bit to play on Steam Deck, but they did optimize it. They literally even added a Steam Deck preset to it when it released last year on PC, which was nice. But like swapping between the PS5 version and Steam Deck when I was like playing the same missions, it's evident that I was almost playing like a last gen version of the game. Like not as bad as when you play Assassin's Creed Shadows when you play it on like the PS5 in quality mode and then you go to the Switch 2 port. It's not that much of a like there's no that much disparity between them, but there was a notable like downgrade, and I lived with it because like I like playing the Warriors games portably, and I loved it. I finished the whole game on Steam Deck. And the only places it dropped was literally in the end of chapter 1. You know, that same battle I brought up with the lightning and with the rocks and all that. That was the only place it dropped below 30 when I played it. So I wanted to make sure I test that area and just generally see how it was on Switch 2 when I was playing it. And like I'm actually a fan of delayed and staggered releases because if I like a game selfishly, I get to replay it for work a few months or maybe a year later. And that's exactly what happened with this. So it's a really, really good port. Like it's massively better than what Omega Force did with Wild Hearts on Switch 2, which never got any fixes or anything. This one is like, it's not just buy it on Switch 2 and like, you know, if you don't have any other platform, you buy it on Switch 2, you get a good experience with the game. This is just a good port in general. And in fact, it was so good that after I finished like publishing the Switch 2 port review, I pre-ordered the DLC because I was like, you know, I'll just play it on Switch 2 since I'm already replaying the game over here. So if that doesn't tell you how much I like the port, I don't know what will. But yeah,
that's pretty impressive because like they
Yeah.
don't fuck around with the large scale battles. Like there's a lot of models on screen like duking it out in this game constantly, and to hear that the Switch 2 version is able to support that and like run that and in a very competent manner, it's like wow, they really put a lot of work into this release.
Yeah, when they said like in an interview before, which we covered with Kite's translation help, they said that we aimed for a stable 30 FPS, and that was very disappointing to many for some reason because I don't know why they expected this to be like a locked 60 or something. Like on Switch 1, the Warriors games were like they were terrible to playable. Like I played every single Warriors game on Switch 1, all of them, even the One Piece stuff, and I got used to them because I wanted to play them portably. But like they were not great except for Samurai Warriors 5 to over here. This is like both Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and Dynasty Warriors Origins are just great, like barely any caveats. So when I was like doing the Switch 2 port review, I did more than I usually would for a port review. So I essentially like compared everything I had. So I did like PS5, Xbox, Steam Deck, ROG Ally, Switch 2, just comparing the visuals and all that. And yeah, they did it still has the visual identity of Dynasty Warriors Origins. Obviously it doesn't look as crisp as it does on like a high-end PC or PS5, but this is the game. Like you're not playing like a watered down version or anything. It's just the same game with some settings turned down. And yeah, the frame rate is weird because if you play it at 30 FPS, which is the default, it's fine. It holds 30 even in parts where the Steam Deck struggled. But then there's a variable option which just uncaps the frame rate. It's not like performance mode, you know, like where you drop down resolution and other settings. It just uncaps the frame rate. Now, if you play this docked, it feels awful. It just feels like unstable. And I was getting motion sickness, so I switched it off.
Oh wow.
But when playing handheld, I think it uses VRR, but I don't know if it's using it perfectly because with variable frame rate in handheld mode, I was pretty happy with it. So I stuck to that when I was playing handheld. So that was nice. And it also has, I don't know what controller you used when you played it on PC, but on the PS5 version, it has like these insane haptics, like when you're running around on the horse and basically everything, like fast travel. They added like vibration, haptic feedback, and stuff for that. So the Switch 2 version doesn't have all of that, but they've done a good job with it. So I was happy with that as well.
Yeah, I just use a DualShock 4 on my
Okay.
PC for controller. Like I know that has like some like vibration options in the PC version, but I obviously don't use the dual sense with it, so I wouldn't really know the
Yeah, okay.
exactly
But
how
yeah,
it's used
I'm very
in
happy
regard.
with the port. Like if you skipped it, easy recommendation. I still love the game. I know it was your top game of 2025. It was in my top 10. Like I adore the game. In fact, like I even imported the Japanese limited edition. I liked it that much, and I've stopped buying most of these collector's editions and stuff like a few years ago. So I only do it for stuff I really really like. I was very happy I got that, and just pleased that the game is in, like, it's just being talked about again. And I hope that I enjoy the DLC when I get around to it. Don't know when with the release schedule, but definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, the series is in a good spot right now. Hopefully they keep it up. Now that the Switch 2 version and the DLC is about to release, I'm sure they're going to talk more about Dynasty Warriors 3 Remastered very soon because it's coming out it's not too far off. So yeah, that's so hopefully more people give Dynasty Warriors Origins a shot. Do you know if they released a Switch 2 demo? Because I know they released a Origins demo for when that
No,
was coming
no,
out.
they didn't. They didn't release a Switch 2 demo, and they've
Oh,
not even mentioned any plans to do one. It's just coming out next week, and pre-orders are
interesting.
up. And yeah,
They should do a
I guess,
demo, I think.
yeah, they should. They should. It
Yeah.
definitely would help. I don't remember if the demo on other platforms let you transfer your save or not, but
No,
those
I
kinds
think it's
of
just a
demos help.
one-off battle. I
Okay.
believe it's like yeah, it was just like a one-off battle. Like it was like, and then you get to face off against Lubu in that demo. It wasn't like at the start of the story or anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I think that demo did like amazing for them because that gave people, it gave people a way to freely try it out, and a lot of people seems to really stick with it. They're like, oh shit, this game is actually pretty awesome.
I think
That
they
demo
even
contributed
they
a
had
lot.
like stats for the demo as well, saying that I think it had like 2 million downloads or something.
Oh
I
shit.
vaguely remember something about the game sales and the demo downloads being revealed together, but I'll have to like check the. I definitely remember them saying either 1 million or 2 million demo downloads in like that launch week or launch month or something. So yeah, it did do well for them because a friend of mine who like has bought a few Warriors games and never played them, he tried the demo and he pre-ordered it, so it definitely worked.
Okay, well, that's Dynasty Warriors Origins, both the Nintendo Switch 2 release and the Visions of Four Heroes story DLC, both coming out next week. I forgot the exact date. Do you remember the exact date
Twenty
off the top
second,
of your
22nd.
22nd? Okay. Next up, like we mentioned earlier, finally, at long last, the West has finally caught up with the Trails series with the release of The Legend of Heroes Trails Beyond the Horizon that officially got released a few days ago, and that means both the West and Japan are finally in sync with the Trails series. It was a long time
Honest,
coming.
honestly, there were moments where I thought it would never happen.
Yeah, yeah. So, obviously, big shout out to every single individual who ever contributed in the release of this series to the West, both all the original staff now from the Xseed side, all the staff from Nice America side, and all the every single individual that contributed in any way, shape, or form to make this happen. Uh, you know,
Yeah, and
thank you, thank you.
it's been a couple of months, but rest in peace to Andrew.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Um, So yeah, Trails Beyond the Horizon, like we mentioned earlier, we won't get into like what can you expect? It's like it's the next Trails game, and if you're interested, you're already playing it, or you're playing to catch up to play it. But Mikhail, you got obviously to check. You got the ability to check this out on multiple platforms, and you got to check out what Durante was working on for it. You have to read all the blogs and stuff for it. Tell us your experience with it and how some of what Durante added to make the magic continue.
Yeah, so I've been trying to do this with I think since maybe Reverie or something like that, but I think it was Daybreak one, where I like doing these comparison stuff, and I love the Trail series. So I thankfully, because PR and publishers are able to support with multiple codes, I'm able to do this because like I know people look forward to it now. People have been like replying to the RPG side account on social once in a while saying hope you compare and all for Trail stuff. So I appreciate that a lot. And because NIS America was able to provide codes, I checked out every version of this basically. And I went a bit beyond that also. And because I had the Clouded Leopard Entertainment PC release for Kaino Kiseki, which is the Japanese name for Beyond the Horizon, I even tested that again because I was like, why not do everything? So I'll do the console, like I'll discuss the console versions first because PC there's a lot to say. So what's interesting about this game is it launched on PS4 and PS5 in Japan, like I think 2 years ago or something. James covered it on PS5 back then. Import impressions are up. He even like wrote his thoughts on the game there. But for the West, they announced it as coming to Switch as well. There was no Switch port for Asia or Japan. And then what happened after that is they randomly delayed the game by like, I think it was delayed from fall 2025 to just early 2026 or January. And that was to add the Switch 2 version, which again is also not available in Asia and Japan. So there was like a lot of uncertainty on like what's happening with these ports and is there anything going to get added or how is it going to release. They released the demo, obviously, so people got to try out the PS4 and PS5 versions, which you could have already tried out if you played the Japanese release or the Japanese demo. But the Switch demo was new. No Switch 2 demo for some reason. Like, this is a weird trend with Nintendo and like how their back end and just in general, I've noticed a lot of games which are cross-gen, they just don't get Switch 2 demos for some reason. It's only Switch 1, so that's a bit disappointing. But yeah, back to the game, like the port itself. So the PS4 and PS5 versions are the same as they were when they released in Japan. So what this means is the PS4 version was uncapped. It just ran at an uncapped frame rate, no graphics options or anything. If you play the PS4 version on PS5, you get a locked 60 FPS, which is funny because that's the only way you actually get a locked 60 FPS in this game. The PS5 version looks better. It has like a 30 FPS or it has like an uncapped option. I don't like the 30 FPS option, so I just left it uncapped and got used to that. But this is a game where if you have a VRR display on PS5, it'll help a lot. So yeah, it's a step up above Daybreak 2, at least from what I played when I retested both of them. Daybreak 2 really felt rough. I don't know like what happened with that game in general. Like except for the PC version, like the console version of that was just like mega rough. Do you know what happened with that, James, or was it just like they just didn't do much with it polish wise?
Yeah, well, I think Daybreak 2 is also kind of rushed, so that would be part of it, I'd imagine.
Okay, so yeah, like Daybreak 2 was, I'd say it was like good on PS5. The PS4 version was playable. I didn't like it much. The Switch version was frankly dog shit for Daybreak 2. Like it's probably like almost a Ease 9 level port. Like even though Falcom did it internally, I just Daybreak 2 on Switch is not worth your time. Like it's a game where like to give you some context, even Cullen was complaining about the port and like he's usually okay with most Switch port issues. So yeah, like
tolerance
that's the
test.
yeah,
that's the bar.
yeah, it is. It is. If
Dear
Colin can tolerate something,
dear listeners, let me put it in perspective. When I played Eye of the Somnium Files, I was split between playing it on PC or Switch because Switch was still fairly new at the time, and I was like, okay, I'd like to play this on a handheld because this was before Steam Deck was a thing. And the whole reason I picked it up on Switch is because Colin said, no, the Switch version is fantastic. That was a lie. That version was not very good. It was all right in the handheld mode, but if you ever wanted to play it docked at all, it was a terrible version to play.
I can't believe Cullen just lied right in front of James's face and he bought it.
Cullen catching
strays.
strays.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so Daybreak 2 is like mega rough on Switch. If you play it on Switch 2, at least the performance gets sorted via backward compatibility. But yeah, like this, the Beyond the Horizon on Switch 1 is a good port of a very demanding game which does not hit a locked frame rate on PS5 unless you play the PS4 version. And like I know people joke about Falcom games, they look like PS3 or whatever. And I'm like, sure, you can say whatever, but like post Daybreak and like Daybreak onwards, the games are like literally a generation above what we had with the Cold Steel games and Reverie as well. Like this is actually like a big step up for them. So yeah, the Switch One version I'd say is like a good way if you only have a Switch One, but the Switch Two version is surprisingly great. So James did a preview where he told me that it has like a uncapped VRR mode in handheld and like docked it. If you play uncapped, it like tries to hit 60, but it's not really great because it's just uncapped, and I absolutely agree with that. But my conclusion with this is like the handheld experience with Trails Beyond the Horizon on Switch 2 is so good. I would actually just play it over here instead of playing it on PS5 because the handheld experience with VRR and with whatever they did to my eyes was smoother than playing the PS5 version without VRR on TV. So yeah, like it's that good. There is one downside though. There is no upgrade path from the Switch One version, no save transfer, and for some reason the Switch Two version costs $10 more than everything else, including PS5 and PC. I don't know why NIS America did this, especially since the physical is a key card. So like, what are you paying $10 more for over here? But yeah, it's unfortunate that the game is more expensive here, but the Switch 2 version is like really, really good. I put up comparisons with everything. Oh yeah, the one thing I want to bring up, I got my PS4 Pro out of storage because some of these games are still coming out on last gen, and I wanted to test that also. So I got the PS4 Pro out to compare stuff, and yeah, it's if you have a PS4 Pro or if you have like a Switch One or whatever, I have everything covered with the console comparison, load times, you name it, it's all there with even screenshots like 4K capture to show you exactly what's cut between platforms and everything. So yeah, give it a read
Cool.
if you want. Now the PC version by PH3. So I'd say post Cold Steel 3 was like the turning point for me with how the PC versions of Falcom games started because uh, Durante's first Falcom port was Cold Steel 1, and that's a pretty rough port when you look at it compared to what he does right now with PH3, but it was still a really, really fantastic port at that time.
Yeah, wasn't
I
it
just
like
wish
the
like
second PC port he worked on? Because I know he did like he helped with new little well, not new Little King's Story on
yeah, he
PC.
fixed Little King's Story and like he wrote a whole blog about like re-engine. Not, I don't know if it's re-engineering, but like basically that port had a ton of work put into it to like fix the spaghetti code or whatever, and it's like now best on PC. Like everything PH3 does is like it's just that's the best platform to play it on. Like literally the best porting house. Period. At one point, I used to say PH3 was like the indie version of Nix's, which. They were the ones who handled like Rise of the Tomb Raider and stuff, and then Sony bought them, and they released some really good Sony ports as well, and now even their ports are launching in a bit of a like rough state, and they get fixed later. So like right now, no caveats, PH3 is the best PC porting house. So yeah, back to Cold Steel 3. That was the first port which felt like it was a massive step up over the console version, not only in like just being able to run it at like, you know, arbitrary resolution and frame rate, but lots of features added. Like you had turbo mode customization, you had like the LOD options and stuff. Like it basically, you could scale it to feel like a generation above or like a remaster essentially of the console version, which was already really good. So what Durante and PS3 have been doing since is they've been integrating features which, like the Geofront localization and the Geofront crossbell ports. They had this feature which was it used to show the background information, like show the background music information when you enter a new area or you get into a battle. You could have a notification saying, "Oh, it's playing this battle theme from this disc of the soundtrack, and this is the composer or whatever." Like these are features you know, like they are very niche features which not many people would know exist or whatever, but once you get used to it, it's really, really nice. And another thing which he added, I believe it was in Reverie, was the first port. So you know how a lot of games, they look really nice but the UI is for whatever reason the UI is like 1080p or the UI doesn't use high resolution assets. Oh, sorry to get on a tangent, but I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about Dynasty Warriors Origins. So like Dynasty Warriors Origins, the only like visual issue I had with it was the subtitle size was tiny if you play it on TV. And they also had this weird issue where the fonts was rendered at like 1080p and it looked weird at some other resolutions. This was not fixed on Switch 2, so if you play the Switch 2 version handheld, it looks perfect. But if you play it docked, the font is blurry. I actually included a comparison for the fonts between Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch 2 just to show this. So yeah, like just wanted to bring that up quickly
No
because
problem.
it ties into what Durante did with Trails into Reverie, where the mini map, which uses like these simple lines and like vectors and all that, that was rendered in it basically had like jaggies, and this is something which you think I'm insane for even bringing it up, but that's the attention to detail you get in these PH3 ports. He added a thing for minimap anti-aliasing, like that's a separate toggle just for minimap anti-aliasing. It doesn't affect anything else in the game. So like that was like the start of where I said this guy is like really really good. And then he added another one which lets you, like when you get into an equipment menu, it shows you a portrait or like a character model of a
Yep.
whatever character in question. There's a separate toggle now to like have separate super sampling or anti-aliasing just for that. Doesn't affect anything else. So you can have your UI looking as good as it can, stuff like that. And then there was I was talking to him when Trails in the Sky first chapter came out, discussing the the augment menus and stuff like that, how they rendered them, Falcom's menus. And he was telling me how he basically put in extra work just to make sure that in his ports, the UI and any of these menus and 2D elements look good, even if you play them on a 720p display, because all these games are like built for 1080p. They're not built for lower resolutions and stuff. So he made sure the scaling and sampling is good enough so that it looks good regardless of what resolution or like what aspect ratio you play on. So all of that is now leading into what they've done in like the Calvert or like Trails into Daybreak and Horizon port, where he added like this new option for like VFX anti-aliasing, which is where you have a character cut when they are like talking to you or where they notice something. So like there's literally special toggles just for these settings. And he also implemented DLSS 4.5 in this like immediately, like in the demo before the game even came out. So I believe this is like this could be the first JRPG with DLSS 4.5, which is pretty insane to think about, right?
I didn't even realize that we're at that point.
Yeah, like so all of that kind of stuff was added to the PC version. And what I've been doing is like in my head I have this thing about what platform I consider the best for each Trails game, and Cold Steel 1 and 2, I still think I prefer them on PlayStation 4. I believe Cold Steel 2 has some issue on PS5 backward compatibility, but I haven't replayed the whole thing. But beyond that, I've just been playing everything else on PC because of all the features he adds, like this. Like, the turbo mode, you can customize it well beyond the console version. You can add separate turbo mode for like mini games. You can add he added some hacking minigame button prompt option. I haven't even looked into that correctly, like how it, whatever, just insane amount attention to detail. And when I was playing the PC port of this, I just said it doesn't look as good as it does on the PS5, but I want these features more than like visual fidelity. And he added not FSR, but he added TA. So I believe James told me this when he played Kaino Kiseki first, that Falcom finally added TAA to the engine. I believe that was the game they did it in. So basically that's available now, and since you have that, you can actually run Beyond the Horizon better than Daybreak 1 and 2 on Steam Deck. So that's nice. So you have like a really, really good portable experience. Oh yeah, the other thing which he started adding to his ports is HDR, because these games don't have HDR on console. So like it's a PC exclusive feature over there as well. Into account the HDR show background information option, the multiple turbo options. You remember the thing which he does in all his ports where you can skip the publisher logos and just get into your save file immediately. All this stuff adds up to like just basically make it the best version of the games ever. And since I bought an ultra wide monitor, I've started testing that out as well, and these games look really really nice on ultra wide. So very happy with the PC port. Like I said when I posted on Blue Sky about it, like already the best PC port of 2026, and it's likely competition is only going to be the Proud Nordics port, which is also being done by PH3 coming out next month. So yeah, it's a big step up over Falcom's port, for first chapter, which like that was a very good port, all things considered, but it's a big step down from Durante stuff. So I've covered everything for the PC version, including like showing comparisons for minimap anti-aliasing. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the only person in the world who has a minimap anti-aliasing comparison image in an article. So give that a read if you're curious about that stuff. There is one correction though, which I made after I published, because I did not realize this, that the Clouded Leopard Entertainment port, which I did cover, it has an option for FSR. The FSR is apparently broken and it just uses TA for upscaling. Now, this is not something I can tell because I don't know how to like manually look at the different upscaling. I can just tell if it's using upscaling or not. So I was able to like test this with a friend of mine who was helping me. We were looking at the files and stuff to verify, because a friend tipped me off saying that CLE's port is broken with this. It has upscaling, but it doesn't have proper upscaling. So
Interesting.
I made a short correction to my article after I published it, because I said that the only thing CLE had over Durante's port is FSR support, and that's broken. So there's literally nothing it has above Durante's port. So yeah, fantastic port.
One thing I
Yeah.
will say, and I kind of mentioned it like on Blue Sky earlier, but when I tried out the demo of Beyond the Horizon on PC to test out a specific feature, Durante's
Okay.
HDR implementation in his ports is not very good.
Yeah. He said this in I don't remember if it was one of the interviews I did with him or not, but he said this is very basic HDR support. It's something he wants to improve, but right now it basically just gets the job done. It's not. I'll say this though. It's not as bad as the quote unquote HDR on Switch 2 handheld though. So like
Yeah.
bad.
That's because you can actually have a proper HDR display, but it's like one of those things where it's like what he
I agree
has
with
set
you.
as like peak HDR. It just doesn't match up, and you have to basically over brighten it because otherwise the
UI is like it's too dim. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
He
correct.
really needs he really needs to have like two separate sliders, or read like HGIG, or like grab info from the Windows 11 like HDR calibration info, because it's like
yeah. Oh yeah,
All right,
speaking of Windows 11,
get that to the proper resources.
Yeah.
So someone out there.
Yeah, so this Josh brought up the Durante's blog post. Now, I unfortunately wasn't able to interview him for this port because like timings and schedules and stuff. But yeah, like since James mentioned Windows 11, Durante put up a detailed blog post on Steam covering the features included in Beyond the Horizons port, the new features, the old features, and he put up this thing which I'm just going to bring it up right now because I want to quote it properly. It's something which I found quite funny. Where's the blog post? You have to scroll past so many editions. This game is like Ubisoft level on Steam. So yeah, he put up this thing about protecting, like the title of the heading for that section on the blog post is protecting players from themselves. And it starts out saying, one thing I've learned over my time doing feature-rich PC ports is that some players don't read.
Absolutely, 10,000%. Yes.
So yeah, he said that
Correct.
he feels confident in ranting about this because everyone who reaches this point in the article is not in that group. So like he was just poking fun at that, and he said he had like basically he's put bright red warning text when people try and like put everything to ultra without reading what it has. And then he said that there have been instances where people try and like run a game beyond how it would be on a PS5 Pro when their PC is like below PS5 level and stuff like that. And he said one solution would be detecting the PC hardware and like not allowing them to use the features. But he said that's counterintuitive or counterproductive. So he said, this is going to be a thing where he's going to let people learn by shooting themselves in the foot what you should and should not do with a PC port and stuff. And he put up this comparison image when he was talking about DLSS where there's one section in Beyond the Horizon on that wheat field, the yellow color wheat field, if you remember.
Yeah.
And that's only that one area. And he was talking about the detail over there, and he added this like a hidden setting called allow underscore silly underscore grain underscore levels. And if you enable this, it goes beyond what you should be able to do and it tanks performance. But he's like, I've still put that in for people who want to absolutely go insane about the level of detail in this one area of the game. So yeah, I found that specific thing really funny. And then he also put up a thing about how his ports will support Windows 10 even though like most games don't support Windows 10 anymore. And one of the testers has like a GTX Titan GPU from 2013, and they made sure it runs fine even on that, a 13-year-old GPU.
Beast
So
mode.
yeah, it's worth reading his blog post for sure. And uh, I'm hopeful that when Proud Nordics is coming out, I can interview him to cover both, because like there's a lot to talk about with both games. So yeah, give it a read. He shows like his FOV slider, which is like basic stuff. Talks about ultra wide. Talks about like character draw distance having a separate slider, and just the amount of work which goes into these ports. Like insane stuff. Like just seriously, like I hope he gets to do more ports in the future and can keep working on Falcom stuff. Like ideally what Falcom would do, they'd release a game just for Switch 1 or Switch 2 or PS4 and let Durante handle everything else for the West. Like that would be an ideal situation. It won't be simultaneous releases, which obviously is unfortunate, but yeah, man, like just I don't know what to say. Like thinking about second chapter's PC port after playing this is just going to be disappointing.
I half joke and half serious whenever I say this, but like I kind of wish Durante and the entire team over at PH3 got like a million clones of themselves and put them in every sector of the gaming industry, and they monopolized like port work from there on out and optimization.
Yeah,
stuff.
I've been playing like fucking Rise of the Ronin, and that is like a dog water PC port. And it's making me really worried for Neo 3, which has the exact same system requirements. It's like, oh man. It's one
Man.
thing. It's one thing when like a game performs bad, but it looks good. But Rise of the Ronin, that game like ping pongs between looking like a proper PS5 game and looking genuinely like a PS3 game, and yet it runs like a fucking Unreal Engine 5 mess. It's like I don't fucking know what's wrong with them.
Oh man, speaking of Unreal Engine 5, like you said, Neo 3, like Code Vein 2's system requirements are also pretty crazy, and that's like an open world Unreal Engine 5 game. I
It's
shudder to
like
think what's going to happen with that.
like I said in my preview. It's like in dungeons, it ran and looked well on a base PS5, but there was just enough frame rate dips, and they kind of steered people away from checking out the open world during that preview on a PS5. And based off I don't have to say it. Like Josh and Adam both saw like the state of it like at Summer Game Fest, where they showed the open world stuff. That it was like kind of shocking that they were showing that to the press of how poorly it ran. But it's very curious.
Yeah.
Also,
Well.
for perspective, obviously we cannot say when we get code, but in this instance, I can say that nobody has gotten Code Vein 2 code yet, and that's out in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, 12 days.
Yeah. Moving on. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for obviously for your comprehensive investigations on Trails Beyond the Horizons. How it's running on all the platforms. Shout outs to Durante's team, PH3, for continuing to make the magic happen on that end. We have an interesting one. We have a new contributor to the site, that a freelancer that wrote for us, Miles Obenza, released a preview for Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties. It's a pretty interesting read because it's from a newcomer to the Yakuza series, which is something you don't often see these days when it comes to Yakuza games, in terms of like their newer stuff and like seeing perspectives from newcomers overall. Adam, you made this happen. Kind of tell us like the what you thought of Miles's perspective here, and you got to edit it and all that stuff. Just tell us about it.
Yeah, so Miles is someone that we've met, James and I, a few times at Summer Game Fest. I don't know if you met him last year, Josh, but
I remember.
he's a freelancer and he's done various stuff for other sites. I know he does a bunch of he does a handful of the guides and deals type stuff, but he wants to do like previews and those sorts of write up too. And he's like, hey, I attended a preview for this Yakuza game. Did you want to do it on your site? And it just so happened that we didn't have anyone else lined up for it. And I was just like, sure, why not? It's either we have you do it as a freelancer, or we just don't have a preview. And then he actually told me afterwards, like, by the way, this is going to be a newcomer preview. Is that okay? I'm like, that's admittedly a little bit kind of interesting or maybe even weird because it's like newcomer for the remake or remake of the third Yakuza game is not really the best, avenue for a newcomer review, but sure, why not? Let's just see. What does someone who has no prior experience with the series, they had some like several hours of hands-on time with this game. What do they think and what's their takeaway? And he was pretty positive on it. Like obviously he had seen a bunch of Yakuza through, his acquaintances and friends and whatnot. But he's never
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, his review is basically like, okay, I know which parts are from like the Yakuza Kiwami 3 part of the game, and he understands this is like the remade game. And then he hears the parts from the Dark Tides version, which is brand new. So he knows that. And he basically described his experiences with, again, no prior like context or familiarity, just like off the cuff. Here's what I played, and here's what I thought. So it's that sort of preview, which is kind of interesting in its own right. Just like this is his takeaway. Sure, some of it might sound like for example, at one point he's like, "This is what a side story is like," and if you've played Yakuza, you know what side stories are like. But he was just kind of saying, "Here's my first encounter with what a side story is like in a Yakuza game." And he kind of described that in detail and what happened in that side story that he did. Yeah, it's that sort of preview. And
it's fun having like just fresh perspectives, pretty much. Yeah, the Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties. We'll share more new info on that in a bit after when you get to the news section. But that is pretty soon, coming out of February 12th. Not too far down the road on that one. But we'll revisit that in a bit. Before we wrap up our article shoutouts here. Mikhail, you did Nintendo Switch 2 reviews for the Switch 2 releases of System Shock Remake and Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. I'll let you take the wheel on this one, whether how much you want to delve into those and what do you think the most significant takeaways from both?
Sure. So I had both of these review codes in before the holidays, but both of them were clearly coming in hot because I was told like there's a patch in the works, and usually almost every game that is coming out now, when you get a review code, there's like always a disclaimer or something which says, by the way, there's a day one patch which is coming to resolve whatever. And it's usually just, it has some performance improvements and it has some localization fixes or text fixes and stuff like that. 99% of the time, whenever it says, oh, by the way, if there are any performance improvements, they should be resolved in a day one patch. That never happens. That's like always a lie, like from my experience. So what happened with this is code for both was very late, like very close to release or very close to whatever the embargo was, from what I remember. And I wanted to like wait a bit for the same patch which was supposed to come. In fact, System Shock's patch was supposed to be a day one patch, but it came out like 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks after day one because it apparently was delayed for some reason. So all the delay and everything aside, like I published both of my reviews together because like both of them ended up getting another patch following that, and I was like, okay, I'm not waiting longer. Like I've waited for the day one patch. And for Rogue Trader, they even emailed me saying, by the way, this is the patch which was supposed to go live. So I was like, okay, so now let me tackle System Shock first. System Shock Remake launched in a pretty rough state on console, like on PS5 when it came out, and was fixed like 3 months later, I believe. I played it only after it was like patched out because I got it like last year. The Switch 2 version is, so when I interviewed them, they told me it's like 1080 60 on Switch 2 and they're hoping to get it beyond 1080 60, but they're still working on it. This was about a month before release. The game came out and it ran really, really bad until the day one patch. And with the day one patch, it's fine docked, but handheld felt worse. So I wasn't sure what's going on, but yeah, like it's in a fine playable state. If you play it docked, the mouse controls are nice. It's the only console version which has like mouse controls, and you can use the Joy-Con mouse controls, so that's nice. But handheld, I just don't recommend it now. It kind of reminds me of Persona 3 Reload pre-patch, so not great. After I published the review, they told me on record that the next patch which is coming should resolve most of the frame rate variations, and they are going to continue improving stability beyond that, and that they are quote unquote very confident that they can achieve solid 60 FPS on Switch 2. I'm going to like obviously I have the game installed, so whenever these patches come out, I'm gonna like check it out again, and if there's anything notable, I will like report on it. But yeah, like is if you wanted to play System Shock on a portable, like System Shock Remake on a portable, this is absolutely one to play on a PC handheld and not on Switch or Switch 2. If you want to play it on Switch 2 dock, fine. I'd still wait for patches or whatever because it's full price right now and not in a great place, but it's fine docked. Just do not buy it to play it handheld. So that's System Shock Remake. Rogue Trader, I think, Rogue Trader is definitely the lowest score I've given on RPG side. I scored it a 3 because I just I'm just flabbergasted they released it in that state. After the first patch, which was supposed to help, it's become worse because the game just freezes more. It doesn't crash as much, so I'll give them that. It just freezes constantly, even outside when it's auto saving. The game's menu stops working if you change a tab. So the only way to fix that is switch on mouse controls, switch off mouse controls, and do something. It's just
Crazy.
not worth buying right now at all. It's like a full price $50 game on Switch
Oh
2.
man.
It's, I don't know, like I feel like these two ports were just rushed to release before the holidays, but if you've like broken your trust with your customers so badly initially, I just don't think they're going to stick around. And there's no DLC announced yet, right? So this game came out quite a few years after it hit other platforms which have had expansions and stuff. But there's no DLC available on Switch 2 right now. They're still working on the DLC. So yeah, right now I do not recommend Rogue Trader. Like it's a game which has issues running on all consoles. Like I'd say the Xbox Series X is the only console which doesn't have the constant hitching. Like it's less so than it is on PS5 in battles and stuff, but it's not great. And this is a game where even if you play on PC handhelds, you have to like cap it to 30 FPS and use upscaling. Otherwise, it has like a lot of hitching. So it's a very demanding game, regardless of how it looks. But do not buy it on Switch 2 right now. Not for dock, not for handheld play. Like just don't. So yeah, that's what I wanted
Would
to
you
say.
say? Would you
about
say the
Rogue
Switch
Trader.
2 release is like the worst one out of them?
It's the Switch 2 release is absolutely the worst way to play Rogue Trader, and it's the worst Switch 2 port I've played since
Oh,
June period. And I've
goddamn.
played probably a shitload of them, like across genres and everything. In fact, I even like wrote an article for like a friend of the site, Alex Seedhouse, for his Nintendo Insider, like about sports games on Switch. And like I was complaining about NBA 2K26 when I played it, and I thought it was like a rush port, but honestly, like no exaggeration, that feels like a Durante port compared to Rogue Trader on Switch 2.
God damn.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
like
mean,
that's what I wanted to say about
it's
those two
yeah,
ports.
it's good luck. I mean, like I feel like we always talk about it, but feels like getting an Alcat game on release, no matter what the platform is it's a big gamble, big gamble, and on top of like it trying to be ran at being optimized for Nintendo Switch 2 with a scope of Rogue Traders, design. Hopefully they figure it out. That's rough. But yeah, thank you for looking into those, and all the best to them. Moving on, we have our news and headlines of the week. The big one this week, they had this level 5 had this Ina Dai stream event covering the latest updates on the Inazuma 11 series. They showed off some of the upcoming Ares Basara Seed DLC coming to Inazuma 11 Victory Road on January 28th. That was already sort of known to people who are playing this game because they have like an in-game calendar, and then late January was when they were gonna add in Inazuma 11 Ares to the Chronicle mode. On that, they added Inazuma 11 Galaxy late last month to that. And Inazuma 11 Ares is kind of an interesting one because before Inazuma 11 Victory Road became a thing, the initial game that eventually became Victory Road many years down the road, it was planned to be an Inazuma 11 Ares game to coincide with the Ares anime many years ago at this point. So it's kind of like almost full circle in that respect. They also announced like an Inazuma 11 mobile game only for Japan. I think it's like Inazuma 11 Cross. But I mean it's only for Japan. They're taking closed beta signups if anyone's interested in checking that out. But I guess like kind of the most significant I guess news to come out of this is kind of a weird one because this is already sort of almost teased back then, but Level 5 CEO Akihiro Hino revealed that they are working on a sequel to Inazuma 11 Victory Road. It's already now in the works he's already at the scenario writing stage for it. This was sort of teased before Inazuma 11 Victory Road came out when he was talking about the player bank feature, where in the game it sorta is like an integrated Pokemon bank, where you can, but you don't have to pay for it. You can transfer over the players that you get in the game into this player bank. So if there were any follow-up games moving forward that had this player bank feature, you can transfer the players that you had in Victory Road over to that follow-up game with the player bank. So they sort of already threatened, already threatened to release a sequel to this game before it came out. But I guess now it's official. Like, hey, they're actually moving forward with that sequel, and they revealed it here on that Inadai stream. They also shared that Inazuma 11 Victory Road sold over 800,000 copies worldwide, which is really really high number for that series. I believe there were still a few Inazuma 11 predecessors that were able to reach over 1 million and so, but after the series has like kind of gone through development hell and back with Victory Road, I'm sure just it continuing to sell well is and already having a sequel in the works is all good news in my book for that series, especially with the worldwide simultaneous release. Like, hey, how much is this going to actually catch on in territories outside of Japan? And the answer is pretty well. So
And it's very expensive. Like
Yeah.
to give some context, it costs more than double of what the 3DS Inazuma 11 games cost in like many parts of the world, including like
Yeah.
Europe. So it is an expensive game with no regional pricing on Steam at all, and it still hit like over 50,000 peak on Steam when it came out with no discount at all. So yeah, it's doing well for them. Like I saw it in the PSN charts as well. I still see people online on my friends list playing it and stuff like that when I play it, and they see me playing it and they say let's play and stuff like that. So yeah,
Nice.
very happy to see. I'm still playing it. Should be done with the main story soon because both you and another close friend of mine have said that the finale of the story is like the best shit in the world. So I can't wait to see that. Hopefully soon.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. But yeah, hopefully it does get some significant discounts this year for players who feel like they've been pay gated and do want to play the game. They absolutely should put it on a discount. Hopefully soon, so to give more players a shot, at playing it. So, and some other news, Bandai Namco released an overview trailer for Code Vein 2, just showing off, for people who haven't been following the Code Vein 2 news as much, it's kind of an overall, hey, like, this is what you can expect from the game and its features, some of the companions, character creator, stuff like that. So, just kind of making, catching people up to speed on what it's about. I guess the thing that really does confirm it's like, hey, they really did aren't mentioning that this game doesn't have multiplayer like the first game. Like, I think that's pretty much confirmed at this point. It's strictly a single player game. There's no multiplayer aspect like the first Code Vein had. We also got another trailer for the Japanese title is Kyoran Makaism, but I guess we have a Western name for this game now. It's Makaism Frenzy of the Netherworld. And that is coming out January 29th in Japan. I do not believe.
Yeah, this is interesting because Clouded Leopard Entertainment has opened up like trailers and websites for this game. So they're handling like an Asian version of this NIS game, and that's where this title comes from because it has like this English subtitle now. And apparently, their Clouded Leopard's version will have like an English translation to some degree. And that's kind of interesting because this is an NIS game, and normally NIS America will take care of that.
Right.
But NIS America has not said anything. It does not
There's
have.
been some weird stuff with NIS America recently. Like, I guess one thing that kind of stands out is that they're handling Estrange Overlord, which is like a project of Nikawa, who used to be the president of Nipponichi Software, but it's not being published by Nipponichi Software in Japan. And now there's like a thing with Nikawa, like might be working on a project with Falcom of all things. It's
What is going on?
yeah.
I had to remind myself, who is the Japanese publisher of Estrange Overlord again? Oh yeah, it's Broccoli.
Yeah.
And developed by
What the hell?
Gemdrops. But yeah, it's sort of like
Mhm.
ex Disgaea, right? Like it's the Disgaea guy, but not tied to actual Disgaea or NIS anymore. But yeah, this game Makaism, it looks like a Disgaea game. It's got that art style. It looks like the more recent 3D entries in terms of like the models and whatnot. I have not looked into specifics in terms of like what the gameplay is quite like. I'm sure it's got like its own twist on it. But yeah, it's getting like a version that you can play in English, at least with English like text, but no Western version has been announced yet. So, and it's from Clouded Leopard Entertainment. So that's kind of an interesting mix of regions and languages and publishers that we haven't really seen. So I would guess that NIS America would announce a Western version. NIS America usually handles NIS games like this. NIS America doesn't localize every single NIS game. They do skip out on some of like the more visual novel type stuff that NIS does at times. But usually games like this are usually pretty good on, that they'll take care of it. Obviously that's their parent company.
And it's
but
interesting that like NIS still hasn't announced that like spiritual successor to Yomawari, which is also like a farming sim too, because that's been like getting a lot of like attention in Japan, and yet we haven't heard a word about it coming west, which is interesting because that's already confirmed for a PC release, which you would think would mean it would be a shoo-in to come to the west. And I'm still assuming it will, but it's like they're just maybe now that like Beyond the Horizon's out and like East 10 Proud Nordics is out pretty soon, we'll start to hear stuff. But it's weird. It's really weird.
One last, I guess, piece of information related to NIS America, they're also releasing a Steam version of Liar Princess and the Blind Prince.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is kind of like, that's cool. It's like 6 years later, and I wasn't really expecting it, and I would never have guessed they would release a PC port for a 6-year-old kind of small scale game.
Feels like it would
but
make
they're
more
doing
sense.
When is Mad Rat Dead coming?
Yeah,
Like,
I was
want
about to say that.
notice.
That's the one that they should have done.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like people at NIS America know that people want Mad Rat Dead on PC. I've told Nate, like, hey, you guys should probably, like, I'm surprised you haven't done it already, but if you can do PC port. There's people that like literally like the anecdote I told him is when the when the soundtrack for Pokemon Legends Z to A came out, there's like one song that everyone loves, Jakint's theme. And like in the comments for the first like kind of uploads of that song, people are like, man, this sounds like a Mad Rat Dead theme. And it's like, oh. And people were saying, man, they should port that to PC. And I straight up told them, it's like, hey, I'm not the only one saying it. Obviously, the people want Mad Rat Dead on PC.
See, like, yeah, maybe the Liar Princess is indicative of things to come, hopefully, in that respect. So yeah, it's kind of weird intermingling of like things behind the scenes on this regard, especially with Makaism and like and other projects. The only speculation that like I've seen is like maybe the NIS America is adding like an English dub to the Western release, and that's why gonna be a later release that they haven't announced yet. We'll see. Who knows? Next up, we have a new media drop for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined that has vocation, vicious monsters, and monster heart accessories. And just another media kit for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Anything anything that stands out to you here that's all worth mentioning?
This is a pretty basic media kit compared to some of the other Square Enix related ones that we get. It's basically showing here are some of the vocations in the game, and it only really touches on like a few of them. So Dragon Quest VII, yes, as it always has a job system. Takes a bit to get to it, not as long as it used to, but uh, there's a job system in the game, and it's just showing that a little bit. And the one new element that they're talking about here are the vicious monsters, which are basically just like other games have had similar mechanics where you're on the world map, you see, there's like there's no random encounters. You run into an icon to generate a battle, but there are some monsters on the map that are just like, I'm a strong version, like a mini boss that you fight, and once you beat them, you get a heart, which it has like a various effects, and it acts as an accessory, and that's new. Like, is that a major mechanic? Not really, but it's new and it's there.
Okay, sounds good. Then that's going to be coming out again fairly soon, February 5th. Almost there. Just around the corner. Arknights Endfield. That's kind of the big release for the gacha game crowd next week. It got like a big release live stream detailing all the events coming to it and all the pre-register rewards and what new characters that are coming out for it. It got 2 new trailers and we got news also that pre-registrations are now up to 35 million, kind of a big number. Seems like a lot of people are very much looking forward to this release. I'm kind of interested to see how it'll go. It's always kind of like a weird spiral. Like these games get a lot of hype. Pre-release will and usually peter out 2 to 3 months after. We'll see where this goes. I mean, this one is kind of interesting because it has a big emphasis on like a base building mechanic in it, like a factory whole construction, and that's something you typically don't see in this space. And how much does that actually like feed into the main game? How does it like automaton systems? How much does that feed into like the overall progression, and where does that like place it in its economy, stuff like that. So that'll be coming out next week. I don't know if I'm gonna try it. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I'm missing out if I at least don't check it out. But I don't know. Maybe I'll get peer pressure. I told myself I wouldn't do this anymore, but I don't know. Maybe I'm weak to. So that's Arknights Endfield. That is coming out January 22nd. After years and years of betas, pre-betas, pre-release stuff. Square Enix shared that Streamlined Progression that was coming to its Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. They're gonna bring that over the PS5 and PC versions next week when that comes over to Switch 2 and Xbox, right? That's coming over to Xbox as well. And the Streamlined Progression is like those like toggles of like, hey, do max damage on hit, have full, just kind of cheat options, kind of get you through the game easier and faster if you want those toggles on it. Like for some people who want to check it out, like maybe for like platform impressions and don't want to go through the hassle of like progressing through the game again of a game that they already finished. It might be useful for those types of folks.
I do think this is. It kind of feels like, well, of course they would. You might think off the cuff, of course they would update the PC and PlayStation versions to get this new update that they're adding to the Switch and Xbox version. It's like, actually, previous releases like Final Fantasy 12, it took a while for those games, the Zodiac Age, to like get parity. Because if you remember with Final Fantasy 12, they released the PlayStation version first, then the PC version, then the Switch version, and every time they re-released it, they kind of added a few new things. And some important things too, like in the Switch version, that's when they finally added the ability to reset your classes in Final Fantasy 12. The original PS4, I'm talking about Zodiac Age, and the Zodiac Age PS4 and PC versions, once you set your classes, you were there. Like, that was it. But then eventually, over time, they eventually found parity, and they eventually got all updated. But it wasn't right. It wasn't as soon as possible. So the fact that they're saying, "Hey, we're making this addition to the Switch version or the Switch 2 version, and we're updating the existing versions as those release," like they didn't do that before. Now that they are, I'll appreciate it.
With some games, they just outright delisted the PC versions when they did an updated port for other platforms. Like, still
Last
crazy.
Remnant.
Yeah.
Last Remnant you cannot buy on PC anymore, and I still think
I was lucky enough. Someone gave me a key for that. Someone following me on Blue Sky, because I looked at how much it sells for on key sites, and I was like, okay, I don't like the game that much. But then I was lucky enough to get that. And I was like, I'll eventually like try it out and see
That
how it
one
is
was
properly.
especially
But
crazy because for years, Last Remnant would consistently be $5, sometimes less during Steam sales.
yeah, but you brought up the thing about how they patched Zodiac Age. They still haven't patched any non-PC version of Final Fantasy X and 10 to HD, with the PC version as these cheats, which were just never added to anything else.
right.
That's it.
That's some parity that was never found for Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
Also, they keep forgetting to add the update to fix the faces in that version. For some reason, they just keep forgetting.
You're right. Yeah, I know. I hope they remember one day. Someone needs to remind them. But yeah, I mean that is coming. That feature is coming to all the released platforms next Thursday, and that'll be coming out to Switch 2 and Xbox, which are new releases for FF7 Remake Intergrade. So if you've never played it and want to play it on Switch 2 and or Xbox, there you go. It's a good game. Definitely worth checking out if you don't want to deal with, progressing through the game organically. You have easy toggles in the menu just for you.
Some of them can't be toggled off. Apparently, like if you max out Gil or max out Materia, I was reading something online that some of them you can just toggle on and off depending on where you are. So like if you're struggling with the boss, you can just enable the combat thing to do like 9999 whatever, I guess. But if you do the Materia or gold stuff or whatever, it can't be switched off. So just like when you try the demo on Switch 2 or Xbox, which has this implemented, I'd recommend reading what it says when you enable these things.
Does it? I wonder. It's kind of a weird question. I don't think you have any answers for this. But like, when let's say you toggle on max damage, will that just like say like one shot a boss, or will it like force a phase change first? Like if it has like a forced phase change in between that battle, or will it just skip everything? Because I think you kind of lose something like not seeing.
No,
like,
no, it'll do the
cutscenes.
phase change, right? Because some of them have the Scorpion Sentinel in the beginning, which I believe is at the end of the demo. Because I saw someone like showing that in a video. I think in that one, remember it has the phase where it jumps on the walls and then you do something, and then it has the timer where you have to go behind the debris in the battle arena. So I assume it'll be like maybe one shot, it'll just chain the phase, one shot, it'll have a cutscene, and then you finish it off if that's how they implement it.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully, it's
yeah.
because they'd be kind of ashamed to like miss out on like all the fancy the like phase change.
Yeah, like the Hell House stuff and all
Yeah,
in Remake
yeah.
was really nice. So yeah, I guess like someone will like post about that eventually.
For sure.
It's coming out like in less than a week now. So
we are revisiting Yakuza 3 once again. And this is kind of a weird one because with the release of Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, the standalone sales of Yakuza 3 Remastered will end. And the only way you'll be able to get Yakuza 3 Remastered once Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties come out is buying it as part of like the Yakuza Complete Series bundle. So just be aware of that. If you want to get the original version of Yakuza 3, buy it sooner rather than later. Don't wait till the last minute.
Like for example, you can no longer buy Yakuza 0 on anywhere because it's been replaced.
You can buy it on GOG.
Oh,
you can buy it on GOG.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, people have been speculating you'll probably be able to buy Yakuza 3 on GOG, assuming that they don't remember that they have those games on GOG anytime soon. Because people are speculating the only reason 0 is still there is that they literally forgot.
Yeah, put it under the GOG preservation program immediately, and hopefully that like safeguards it or somehow.
But yeah, the problem with how they're handling Yakuza 3 Remastered is they're forcing it into that bundle, which obviously means if people want to get it, they have to spend like over $100. But apparently, like I was looking into this on Steam DB, they changed how that bundle works like over a week ago, like just this year, where it no longer is like a complete your bundle, or they've changed basically how the bundle works, where
That's
people who
fucked. That's
I can't
fucked.
verify this because I own every game, like I bought all of them on Steam. But there's something where a friend of mine told me that if you own like one game, it just will not let you buy the bundle. It'll say purchase as gift. You know how Steam does that with some bundles where you can configure it so that people can buy a second copy. So I believe the only way for this would be if someone gifts it to you, but I don't know if Steam will block that or not. But there is something where they've changed how they've done the bundle. Like I'll link it when I look at SteamDB after we finish recording. But that's messed up. And the other thing is what they'll likely do is with Zero, Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2, they rename Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2 with bracket legacy at the end. And they basically hid the Steam page from showing up on search. And you can't find it at all unless you go through your library if you own it, or you find it on Google and get a direct link. Now the problem with this is, and I'm surprised Sega did this, they had 3 games which are like overwhelmingly positive with thousands or like tens of thousands of reviews, which were like, you know, on Steam, when you have that many reviews, your game gets promoted more with the algorithm and stuff. They've delisted it and have completely separate app IDs and builds of the games, which are mixed or like just generally positive on Steam, not overwhelmingly positive with less than 1,000 reviews. And like I'm surprised the publisher that has so many games on Steam made such a stupid decision. Like, how do they not know how Steam works? Like, I'm just confused. And it's gonna happen with 3 Remastered as well.
I actually investigated this right now because, believe it or not, I don't have Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 Remastered on Steam. I bought those for PlayStation and never the Steam version. So I was like, okay, what does this look like if I put the Yakuza Complete bundle into my cart? And I'll put it up on our staff chat. But basically, I can't purchase it because I already have some of the things in its bundle. So it only shows continue shopping, but that's it. I can't do payment.
That's
or anything.
This
I had this. It is crazy how like Sega has been like absolutely bungling a lot of the optics around this release. It's insane how bad it's been. Like between this and like the whole stuff with like that one actor, it's like
yeah. I think after they've announced Zero Director's Cut and what they've been doing, like every game and everything they've been announcing has pissed off fans in some way or the other. Like there's not been a single thing they've announced that people are like consistently happy with. When like post Zero, whatever they used to announce for the series was like everyone was just happy and they're like, yes, like I'm gonna buy it to support. I'm just not seeing it. But yeah, what Josh posted, I had a similar issue with this with how Exceed used to handle their deluxe editions with some games where the soundtrack was only available in the deluxe edition. And for, I believe it was Uppers, you know, the game which was a Vita exclusive and it got ported to PC and that's how it came out. So I wanted to get the soundtrack for that game and I couldn't get it because I had the base game. And the only way to, because I had the same error you had where it says you can't buy this because you already own something. So the only way I could fix this is I had to tell Valve to remove that from my account and I bought the deluxe edition on sale. So that's like crazy. The only way you will be able to do it is if you get Kiwami 2 removed from your account based on what you sent and you buy this for $130. So good luck to Sega.
That's insane. That is super greedy. Holy fuck.
Some of these, like, I still don't really understand why Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2 had to get, like, new pages, but they do now. It's weird. But, like, some publishers, even if they release a remaster, they'll keep, like, the original version has a Steam page also, and, like, why don't you just do that? Just have both versions on Steam. This is just the first thing that came to my mind, and I wouldn't normally say this, but you gotta hand it to Bethesda. That Oblivion Remastered is on Steam, but also Oblivion Game of the Year Edition from 2009 is still there if you want to play that version.
It's like we're all talking around it, but it's pretty obvious that the reason why they've done it this way is because, like, Yakuza 3, like, Remastered was $20. This remake, not even a full, like, comprehensive remake, is going to be $70.
60.
Is it 60?
Yeah, it's 60. 70 is the deluxe, I think, or it's 75. But yeah, it's a $60 game.
Still,
But either way, like
Oh, so you brought
the
up
point still
Bethesda.
stands. Yeah.
There's another publisher you have to give props to with this, and it's laughable to even say that. But 2K handled BioShock right, where the new remastered port which they did just got added to the library for anyone who had the original, and it's the same page on Steam, so they kept all the reviews and everything. The SEO around it on Steam is all fine, like it's all good, and no one is pissed off. Like if you don't like the remaster, just play the original. Like it's no loss for you. But what Sega did is, like, so for Kiwami 1, I can get the reason to charge $2 for it because they added licensed music back that probably they couldn't probably do that for free like they did with Kiwami 2. But I don't know why they just didn't add the app to people's library for people who had it and just have the Steam page visible. And like, if you buy Kiwami 1 now on Steam, you should get both versions. I don't know why they didn't just leave it like that. It's just baffling that they whatever, like they just keep doing this. They did with Sonic Generations also, where when Sonic X Shadow Generations released, they delisted the original version of Sonic Generations, like because that was much cheaper, right? So they want people to buy the more expensive version. It's just, I don't know what to say.
If you wanted these Yakuza 3, 4, 5 remastered, like I said, especially Yakuza 3 remastered, get them sooner rather than later. Don't wait for the last minute. And I imagine if they do Kiwami 4, Kiwami 5, which they might possibly do in the future, they'll probably.
Can you imagine how much
they'll
they'll cut
probably
from
treat
Kiwami
these-
5?
Oh my god, they'll probably treat these the same way in which how they're going to handle the old remastered releases. This is. I hope the Goshi's game is good, man. I really hope the Goshi's game is good. Next up, we have I don't even know how many vinyl releases this series has already had, but we have a Chrono Trigger Vinyl Soundtrack box set announced for March release in Japan and April release in the West.
This is the first one.
Oh, is it the first one? I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I would have thought Chrono Trigger.
That's
had more
why.
before.
That's why I put it on. That's why I put it in the thing we should discuss, because this is like one of the most requested soundtracks for vinyl release ever. And Square Enix has done like these random compilations. They've done like a Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers thing where they had like some of the new arrangements they did for the remaster. And Chrono Trigger itself has gotten like a shitload of albums, like piano, orchestral arrangement, and all. That's probably what you confuse this with. But for vinyl, this is like the full soundtrack available on vinyl for the first time. It's a huge deal. Like a friend of mine was so pissed off and happy at the same time because he overpaid for this bootleg. Someone made a bootleg of the vinyl a few years ago, which was limited to only like 100 or 200 units or something. And because no one expected this to happen, Square Enix has done so many vinyl releases for so many games, but for some reason, nothing for Chrono Trigger, so everyone just wrote it off. And now it just randomly happened today. They announced it, not even a tease. Just Square Enix's music account posted it on Twitter, and the website went up. Like, holy shit. And yeah, it's available to buy on CD Japan, Amazon Japan, or if you want to like overplay considerably, you can buy it from the Square Enix store, because it's like I think it's $110 or $120 on CD Japan and Amazon Japan. But if you get it on Square Enix's store, it's like 175 plus tax. And knowing Square Enix is I don't know, like their stuff is always expensive. I remember when they did Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD remastered on PS3, it was exclusive to the Square Enix store. And when I asked a friend of mine to order it for me, I was just baffled at how much they charged extra over just the expensive item price. And we just joke about it that if you buy from the Square Enix store, it's like $50 for a game, $40 shipping, and $10 tip. And hopefully you get it like in a month or something. So yeah, it's just very expensive. So like it's 174 or 175. I already forgot and I wrote the story this morning. So yeah, very happy that Chrono Trigger finally on vinyl. If I get it, I'll get it from Amazon Japan, because I don't want to like but yeah, it's a very big deal for video game music on vinyl. It's like literally like the one of those white whale unicorn moments for people. So very happy it happened.
So
and hopefully they don't mess up the release.
Yeah, we're feeling interested. This is going to be 4 vinyl discs with 64 songs, Chrono Trigger on them. So that's one hell of an announcement out of nowhere.
Yeah, so they ported Chrono Trigger to vinyl and not Switch.
Next up, we have something that feels like, of course, they already had this plan, but you kind of almost build it into the world in some aspect. But the 100-line Last Defense Academy's original soundtrack is releasing on January 17 digitally and April 24 on CD. You asked about this in an interview not too long ago. Obviously, they probably already had this plan months and months ago, but it's just kind of funny to see it manifest so closely after that interview that you did
Yeah.
with the Kanaka. Which is it's been a kind of an interesting week for 100-line Last Defense Academy, because along with this announcement, their Tokyo Games has kind of, as part of its marketing scheme for 100-line Last Defense Academy, they used one of the big spoiler twists of that game as a marketing tool to re-market that game again. I don't. It's one of those like, should I even mention it because they officially showed it on their account, but it's still a spoiler.
This is why I didn't post the news. This is why I didn't post that as news, because I was like, the soundtrack is news, but like the other thing is literally going to ruin the game for many people, and I have to like tiptoe around stuff. And I said,
Exactly.
it's like a grenade. It's a live grenade. I don't want to touch it. So
Yeah, like I won't mention it here, but it's kind of a weird thing that I kind of wish they didn't do, because that was one of the cooler parts of the game. And I wish they didn't have to do this.
Technically they haven't spoiled it. They've said they basically just started marketing that the way that 100 line worked is that the first 35 40 hours was a tutorial, and then once you got to the actual game, the main menu changes to the 100 line too, and that's when the actual 100 different like endings starts happening. And they've now officially revealed that. Well, no, they haven't officially revealed that. Now they're just marketing it as, oh, the 100 line comes with 100 line too, when it's like, that was technically always the case because of how the game was made.
It's just like, it kind of just like, for people who never played the game, weren't familiar, it's like, this was like kind of surprising for them because they didn't know, because they didn't play it. And that's, you kind of rob people of that experience then.
Yeah, I've never played 100 line, and being honest with myself, I probably never will. Sorry, it's just a time limited,
yeah, for sure
thing. But I saw this Twitter like new key art for 100 line 2, and I was like, this isn't actually a sequel, right? This has to be some sort of meta thing. I didn't know.
But it's confusing for many people.
I didn't know that, like, okay, this is how the game is structured. Now I do. So in a sense, yes, I have been spoiled slightly, I guess. So,
but it has a weird like ripple effect also, because Micha mentioned like one of his friends is now holding off on buying this until that 100 line 1 and 2 repackaging comes.
Yeah, he was going to refund it on Steam. He told me, should I refund it and wait for the bundle with both games? And I was like, no, just don't read anything and just play.
Like it's kind of a weird thing, like, because that's absolutely like a realistic thing that like how people would interpret this. Like, yes, that's crazy. So, but that it is what it is. And that original soundtrack, it will have 88 tracks on it. It's way more than I thought it would.
It doesn't have the licensed music. It doesn't have the licensed music because that is either on streaming already through the original artists. The final boss theme is a licensed track. I won't say more than that, but yeah, that's already been on streaming.
It's really funny how every time someone has tried to upload like rips of the entire soundtrack, they'll like get that playlist copyright struck, and they won't understand why until someone tells them, dude, that's licensed music.
So yeah, for some reason the Steam version is missing a flute arrangement of one specific track. I don't know why. That's a Steam thing, because it's available on iTunes to buy. But yeah, the Steam soundtrack is expensive. It's $40 for the soundtrack, which is almost as much as the game right now, because the game is 30% off. So you can spend $42 and get the 100 line 1 plus 2. That's 2 games in one. Amazing value. Or you can buy the soundtrack for $40. That's like quite a bit. I think the only other soundtrack in recent years which has been surprisingly expensive on Steam compared to other platforms has been the Monster Hunter Wild soundtrack, which is like some $60 or something. It has more songs and all, but like that's not how you sell soundtracks on Steam. So yeah.
Moving on to sales updates, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has sold 10 million copies worldwide. So big number. Congratulations to CyberConnect 2 and Bandai Namco for that game continuing to sell. And I believe It's getting a new DLC. It's
already
now
out.
available.
It
Yeah,
just came
already
out.
out. That's right. The part 2 of the Daima adventure through the Demon Realm. So, and I think that's the final announced DLC as far as we know for Kakarot, right? They haven't announced
Yeah,
anything
we've
beyond
said
that.
this before because they had like their first sets of DLCs, which I forget what the last one was. I forget if it was like the Trunks stuff or whatnot. But then they were just like, that was at one point the final set, but then they just
Yeah.
added more. So we are once again, this is the final announced DLC for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. It's the second part of the Daima DLC, which I think this one adds the Super Saiyan 4 version Goku. Spoilers, that's what happens in Daima. But yeah, there's nothing else announced. We'll see if they find something to add at this point.
What was the other game? The other Dragon Ball game? They got like a billion freaking DLCs before
Xenoverse 2.
this.
Xenoverse
2.
2.
That's right. Yeah.
Which Xenoverse 2 might as well have been like an MMO.
Yeah. That thing. I don't even know if they're like done with DLC or not for that game. Finally, I have no idea. It feels like they're done until they announce something new.
I bet you they will announce a Switch 2 version of Xenoverse 2 within the next like 2 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like it's inevitable. I can believe that. Now the big question is, will they have all the DLC bundled into it or not?
No, of course not.
Am I crazy?
They won't have all the DLC bundled into it because, and to coincide with the announcement of that Switch 2 version, they'll announce 5 new DLC packs.
Oh, it's true. All right. Moon Studios' No Rest for the Wicked has reached 1 million copies on Steam. I believe it's still in early access, and they announced an upcoming Wicked Together co-op update, and that'll be coming, I believe, this upcoming week. So, but there's still no release, like official release date for like the 1.0 version of this game. It's still in early access. I don't know if there's like any sort of roadmap on like a time frame window on whether when they're expecting that. But that's the only real update that we know is like, hey, they're coming with a co-op update next week, and they've reached 1 million copies sold on that front. So, congrats to them. I know they've been kind of in a weird spot because some of their leadership has not really been great on the public front. Let's say on things they had to say to the hardworking developers there. Continue to do a fantastic job.
And we just need to hope that they don't share their thoughts on the ice stuff in Minnesota.
Then we don't want to hear what you have to say. Unexpected news out of nowhere from Sabotage Studio, but they are bringing Sea of Stars to mobile on April 7th to iOS and
Interesting.
Android. With the pre-orders
So
now live.
So that's being done by this company called Playdigis, who's like a mobile porting house. They do a lot of indie ports. They did TMNT Shredder's Revenge. They did Chance of Senar. And yeah, they announced this. The fact that it is coming to mobile at all is surprising because I believe they've never worked with anyone involved with Sea of Stars. So yeah, it is coming. It's less than half price of the other versions, and usually mobile ports are for games like this end up being pretty throwaway. But these guys will like make sure it's like ultra wide support on like iPhone 15 Pro, and like
cool.
iPads will have full screen. They'll put 120 FPS, whatever. Like they do really good stuff.
So Playday just has a
when I
pretty good
saw-
track record.
Yeah. The only game which they've messed up on mobile so far, I'm trying to remember because I've reviewed every single thing they've released so far. There was something they released. Oh, it was Art of Rally, I believe. Oh, I'm confusing that with someone else. Let me just double check. Art of Rally.
And for people who are interested, this will be a price game on mobile. It'll have a special 10% off launch price, so it'll be at first $9, and then it'll eventually get bumped up to $10 as like real base price.
Okay, I confused the Art of Rally with another thing. The Playdigis port, which ended up being bad, was the Netflix-funded Sonic Mania port they did because the audio on that was busted and it never got fixed. So yeah, that was the only bad thing they've done. But yeah, when I saw this, I was happy that Playdigis is doing a good, like they're going to do a good port of this. But in the back of my head, I was like, why wasn't it Chained Echoes? I'll leave it at that.
we'll see. We'll see down the road.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's cool for them. I'm interested to see like how well they do like the touch like if there's like any sort of like touch control you could do with like the gameplay mechanics, like to like bounce off stuff, like parry stuff with a button finger tap.
I do kind of like
So
the idea of just having more of these, especially like these sprite-based um, RPGs, whether they're indie classics or like these throwback type RPGs, you know, viable and playable as just like single purchase releases on mobile. Like
yeah,
I've been traveling, like I traveled for the holidays, travel a few times per year. And I don't mind playing games on my phone, but I'm not a fan of like gacha style RPGs, which is
yes.
most phone RPGs. I've already played Sea of Stars, but like there might be other phone RPGs that I'd want to play while I'm traveling. That's just like you always have your phone with you. Why not? And so, a game like this for people who like to play games like this on their phones, I'm up for it. We'll see how it works.
Yeah.
But
You know, a
Go
game
for
that
it.
would be a really good fit on mobile that I'm kind of surprised hasn't happened. Sharon the Wanderer 6. I
yeah,
feel like
Oh yeah,
Sharon the Wanderer would actually be a really good fit for mobile.
5 is on mobile in Japan only, and Spike Chunsoft always dodges like when I ask why it's not available outside. But yeah, like those kinds of games would. And one of the things which brought Playdages on the map is they used to do these amazing indie ports, which ended up like always feeling like they were only within like mobile players. But when they did Dead Cells, that just exploded, and it sold like 5 million. I think it sold 5 million just on mobile in like 3 years, which is insane, like as a paid game. So that I think is their most successful thing which they did, and they've just been like doing multiple games. And so yeah, I'll definitely check it out because I play everything they release. So I'm interested to see. Like you said, right? They posted some screenshots of the touchscreen interface and stuff. But yeah, I want to see how it feels when I actually play it.
Yeah, I still think the really rare release that happened, like it was like mobile exclusive, it was a paid game. It was it's called X Asterisk by uh Hyper or Griffline.
Griffline,
And yeah,
yeah,
Griffline. And that
and
never got ported out from mobile. It's still
yeah.
there on iOS and Google Play, and as a paid game. And just kind of like a one-off release. I don't know how well it did, but it's kind of interesting. Like it just never got ported anywhere else after that release. And that's a paid game. There's no gotcha mechanics. It's just like a real game that you pay for a price. And that was from a studio that has a pretty successful gotcha game. They're just like, hey, we'll do a normal game release. And that I wonder if I should try it again, because I know that got post game updates like after its release, and I got this new phone it'll probably run better on this phone than my last phone. I don't know.
I might have mentioned this already on a previous podcast, but my phone, which is like a year and a half old now, it's one of the newer Samsung phones. Actually, it has like the built-in like the stylus
Uh-huh.
in the phone, and that actually makes playing like mobile games like almost like playing a DS just on a phone, right? Just it's so much easier to control like with the stylus rather than like my thumb. Um, I've actually been playing Final Fantasy Dimensions, which is like I don't know 10 years old at this point, and like it's actually very very playable when I use a stylus.
Nice.
And I prefer that over my thumb. But I was actually wondering like what other mobile games are out there. I think like Chaos Rings 3 is still available. Like maybe I'll try that. um,
The
Dimensions
search,
2.
the search for premium mobile games.
You can take your Vita out of storage and play the Chaos Rings trilogy.
oh yeah, because 1 and
Ooh.
2 are no longer on mobile. I think they've been delisted.
And last up here, we have the Metaphor ReFantazio Guidebook Edition. It's now available on PS5, Xbox, PS4, and Steam. The Atlas announced this not too long ago. It's just basically a re-release of Metaphor ReFantazio with some goodies like a digital strategy guide, digital art book, digital soundtrack, and like cosmetics and BGM set for people who haven't given that game a try yet, or we're waiting on it. You can get a version of this game with some goodies along with it, pretty much.
Don't buy the Guidebook edition. Instead, buy the regular edition and follow our walkthrough on RPG site.
Yeah, that's true. I can guarantee you that they have better guides than whatever is that dumb guidebook edition that they released. I'm sure our guides are fucking awesome and more amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the guide which they've included in this is like just a sampler from the actual physical guide which they released, which I'm supposed to order soon.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
called
like,
it calls
just
it a
kind-
condensed version.
Yes.
I think the
It's
only
probably like what
game-
they did for the Elden Ring pre-order bonus, which was like an adventure guide prologue or something, which just like has
Yeah.
tips for the first few hours or something. But it's just bizarre because they let you upgrade to this guidebook edition for like $20 or $15 or something, and it just includes this sampler of the guide and some of the useless DLC, like 2 DLC packs which are $5 each. So it's absolutely not worth upgrading. Just like wait for the guide to become cheap so you can buy it for the art and read the RPG side guide for the actual game.
That's marketing right there.
Hearing about this stuff just reminds me of when XC did the limited edition for East Memories of Celceta, and the Addles Journal was also like a guide for the game, but was like written in a way that was meant to be like actually like Addle, like
role playing at all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, which was genuinely probably the coolest thing about that game. I'm not a big fan of Memories of Celceta, but it's like,
when is Revelations in Celceta supposed to release? Soon, right?
It's just early 2026. I expected it to be a Jan release where they send code in December like they did for Felghana, but I guess that didn't happen. I've already played that, so it'll be like the easiest. It'll be the easiest Switch review ever. Like, but yeah, it's just I don't know what's happening with that because I hope it's not some corpse party related drama. It can't be with that game's content, but I don't know. Like them being silent on this is a bit sus.
yeah.
And that's pretty much what we have for this week. Coming up this upcoming week, like I said, Arknights Endfield is coming out. Is there any other big thing that we can talk about or is coming next week? I don't know off the top of my head.
Final Fantasy
I think
VII port.
next week is probably Final Fantasy VII ports, but
That's right.
I don't know what else is out.
Okay, I'm looking at my calendar.
2026 RPGs.
Yeah, a bunch
on
of
RPG side.
indie games. So there's like an early access, I think, roguelike tactical game called Blightstone. There's a Mother Earthbound type inspired game called Hermit and Pig.
I demoed that at Dave the Dev's like Game Awards edition like a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Or actually no, like 2 years ago or something like that.
Yep. So that's coming out. There's a Toho game called Toho Blossom Blade coming out. I actually need to update this. I still have 7 Deadly Sins here for the week after, but that's been delayed.
Delayed that to March, I believe. Not like
It'll probably be Final Fantasy VII ports and Arknights Enfield if Chow is on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it for next week.
We'll see whatever other news comes out as well.
Probably gonna write up something to give my final thoughts on like Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail's like raid series for the expansion since I've cleared all the fights now.
Cool. Oh yeah,
Which fight had the Tom Morello song?
It was the first half of the last fight.
Okay.
We also have a developer direct from Xbox coming up this week on January 22nd, and that'll have Fable and Beast of Reincarnation as far as RPGs go on that. So we'll have new news on them as well. And that's it for this week's Tetracast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Adam, Mikhail, and James for joining me. And Brian should be back next week as your usual host. Until then, take it easy, stay safe, take care, and we'll see you next time.